Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Gabby, and today I'm going to be doing another Try a Chapter tag, but I thought this time I would do it with very recently released thrillers that I have acquired. So I'm going to be reading the first chapter of 10 recently released thrillers, and I have 6 of them in physical copy in front of me, and then the other 4 I'm going to be reading on my phone because in the iBooks app on the little store thing, it lets you download a sample of each book, and so you get the first chapter of any book you want to try if you didn't know that. I wanted to do this because I've been kind of in a thriller slump, I want to say. I read the first 42 pages of The Passengers by John Mars, and this one is an arc, and this is one that I'm really excited about, but for some reason it's kind of putting me in a slumpy mood because the beginning of this is just very it just feels very distant from the characters, and it's not really gripping me right away. I've also read 144 pages of The Whisper Man by Alex North, and this one is good. It's kind of creepy, but it's not really luring me in the way I want it to, and I think I kind of blame it on the fact that this book has a detective as one of the main characters, so it's just not really gripping me and pulling me in the way I want it to, so I'm getting kind of bored with it. So I just thought, hey, I have 10 other thrillers that are high up on my TBR, so why don't I just try the chapters of all of them and see which one sounds the most intriguing to me. So I think I'm going to be reading the first chapter of all 10 of these thrillers and then letting you know on a scale from 1 to 10 how intrigued I am to continue reading. On a scale of 1 to 10, how hooked has this book made me so far? So let me show you the 10 books that I'm going to be reading the first chapter of. So the first one is going to be The Need by Helen Phillips. The next one is going to be I Know Everything by Matthew Farrell. The next one is going to be The Escape Room by Megan Golding. Next one is going to be The Swallows by Lisa Lutz. Next one will be The Perfect Wife by J.P. Delaney. Next one is going to be Lost You by Halen Beck. Then the next 4 I don't actually own with me, but the 4 that I'm going to be downloading samples of on my phone. The first one of that is going to be The Arrangement by Robin Harding. The second one is going to be Someone We Know by Sherry Lapina. The third one is going to be One Little Secret by Kate Holohan. And the fourth one is going to be Dear Wife by Kimberly Bell. What I do like about thrillers in particular is that thrillers typically have shorter first chapters, and they're usually the kind of book that will intrigue you right away. So it'll be interesting to see what I get out of these first chapters. So I will be back when I have read something. Hello, I am back. I have read the 4 books that were the samples on iBooks. Let me talk to you about those. So the first one I tried the first chapter of is The Arrangement. This is probably the one that I'm most excited for out of all of these thrillers. And this book is possibly going to be me and Jacqueline's buddy read for September, and I put up a poll today on Instagram. Me and Jacqueline want to do another buddy read of a thriller, so we're either going to be reading this book or The Chain, and then whatever gets picked, we're going to end up doing an Instagram live show discussing it afterwards. So it could probably be this book. I mean, this one has been winning on the poll all day, so it'll probably end up being this book. But this book did have a prologue and a first chapter, and all I know about this book is that it's about a girl who gets a sugar daddy. That's literally the only thing I know about it. And so the prologue was very interesting because it's about this girl who was calling her dad from jail, and she's telling him that she was just arrested, and he asks her why she was arrested, and she just said she killed someone. The first chapter jumps 4 months into the past, and it's this scene about how she really hates her current living situation, and her roommates are really shitty and doing everything within their power to try to get her out of the house. And so it kind of makes her character seem like she's really desperate to earn some money quick, which would make sense why she would eventually get a sugar daddy. So far I'm giving this an 8 out of 10 on the scale of hookedness because I'm really digging this writing. I love when stories start with something interesting, you think the main character has killed someone, and then you're gonna go back and figure out what led up to that. So I'm already really intrigued by it, and I'm just really intrigued by the whole aspect of a girl getting a sugar daddy and then things turning sinister. Really want to continue reading this one. Really like the writing so far. The next one I read the first chapter of is Someone We Know by Sherry Lapina. This author is one of my favorite thriller authors. I've loved most of her books. This one also starts with a prologue and a first chapter. The prologue is of this husband killing his wife with a hammer, and then he's going down to the police station to report his wife as missing, and he's saying she like went on this weekend getaway with one of her friends and never returned home. And then the first chapter is from what seems to be a completely different family, and it's this mom yelling at her 16-year-old son because she discovers that he robbed a stranger's house the night before, or that he broke into a stranger's house the night before, and he admits that he was just hacking into their computer and he wasn't like stealing anything. But it's very interesting because I'm intrigued because like I want to know what, like, how these are even related, like the prologue and the first chapter, and they both seem super intriguing. Like I want to know both stories simultaneously, which is also another good sign to me. So this one's also getting an 8 out of 10 for Hooked so far. Really want to read this one. The next first chapter I read was One Little Secret by Kate Holohan. I have read one book from this author. It was called Lies She Told, I'm pretty sure, and it was a 5-star thriller for me. Like I really enjoyed it. This book has a prologue that is very short, and it's a prologue about this woman drowning, and then the first chapter is about this detective named Gabby, which is crazy because like I never find books that have my name in it, so that was pretty cool right away just to be like boom, like but it's about this detective named Gabby who's interviewing this girl who is saying she might have been raped at this party. And then at the end of the chapter the detective gets this call about this woman that has like drowned, I think, and so I think they're like kind of connected in that way. But to be honest, like, I found the first chapter itself to be kind of slow and kind of boring. I'm not really into thrillers that follow detectives, like, I'm just really not. They tend to bore me. So my hype for this one went down a little bit. I'm thinking this one's more like a 3 out of 10. Like, I might pick this one up, but now I'm like, I don't know. Alright, and then the last book that I read the first chapter of on my phone is Dear Wife. This author, I have also read one of her previous books. I read The Marriage Lie. Really enjoyed that one. So this first chapter is told from the point of view of Beth, who I am assuming is the wife in this, and she talks about her abusive husband and how she's like planned her escape and how she got away from him. And it seems like the next chapter is going to be told from the husband's point of view. So I think in this book we're getting the wife's point of view in one chapter and then the husband's point of view in the next alternate chapters. This first chapter felt very like Amy's diary entries in Gone Girl. As far as like me being hooked from the first chapter, I would give this probably like a 5 out of 10. Hello again. So I have read 3 of these physical books, the first chapters of them. I just wanted to say that I'm jumping into these 6 physical books that I have pretty blindly because I don't remember what the descriptions of the books were. I just read the first chapter of The Swallows by Lisa Lutz, and this first chapter was just about this teacher who is just starting her first quarter or whatever at this new school that she's going to be teaching at, and they changed all of her courses from English courses to creative writing courses, and she's like really upset about it. And that's pretty much all the first chapter is about. So like as far as the first chapter goes, for a thriller, I'm not super intrigued by this. Like I would probably give this a 3 out of 10. But reading the actual description of this book, it sounds really interesting because it says when Alexandra Witt, who's the teacher, joins this faculty at Stonebridge Academy, she's hoping to put a painful past behind her. Then one of her creative writing assignments generates some disturbing responses from students. And then she becomes immersed in this investigation of the students atop the school's social hierarchy. I do think this book has potential to be interesting, but as a first chapter on its own, it was alright. Another one I picked up is The Perfect Wife by J.P. Delaney. I just finished the first chapter of this, and again, reading this first chapter blindly was also very confusing. It mainly follows this girl who wakes up from this like coma dream-like state, and she has no memory of who she is, and this guy next to her is like crying and saying he's her husband and that he's so happy he didn't think it would be possible for her to wake up. And she's like, what are you even talking about? And the first chapter for me was so boring up until the very last line. Like that's when I got hooked and was like, wait, what? Basically what he says is he's like, because she's like, oh, I remember I was dreaming that you just proposed to me. And he was like, that wasn't a dream, it was an upload. And I was like, wait, what the fuck? So I went back and read the description of this book, and it says that her husband is this like titan of the tech world, and that she is like a miracle of science because he uploaded a memory to her brain or something, and now she woke up and she was in this accident 5 years ago, it says, and that they didn't think she would ever be able to wake up, and like I don't even know, but then it says she can't trust she doesn't feel like she can trust him or like what he's saying or doing. So I'm like, what? Before that last line of this, I was like kind of bored by this first chapter, but now I'm thinking it's kind of like a 7 out of 10 on the intrigue because the premise alone sounds so cool. It sounds like it's almost kind of like thriller, but with some sci-fi vibes maybe. And then the third book I just picked up right now is Lost You by Halen Beck. And this one I also just read this first chapter blindly and I was like, what the actual hell? It's like about this girl who is holding this child, Ethan, that she's claiming is her son, and she's like standing on the roof or something on a 7-story building, and she's like threatening to jump, I think, and the police are all like shouting at her and they're saying like, don't do it, whatever. And then the first chapter just ends with like, I take a step and only hear screaming or something like that, and you're just like, what? And so then upon reading the description of this book, this shit sounds insane. So it says it's about this girl who goes on a vacation with her 3-year-old son, Ethan. And then while they're on the vacation, when they're in the hotel, her kid, Ethan, just like runs into the elevator of the hotel and disappears. And then the footage, they find the security footage of a woman leading him by hand, and then the police are called in, and the search intensifies, and Libby's initial panic turns to dread. The woman on the video is disturbingly familiar. She begins to suspect that the problem isn't that he's been lost, but that he's been found. So my intrigue for this one is probably like an 8 out of 10. I'm actually really excited about this. I've never read anything by this author before, but very intrigued. That first chapter was very like dark and kind of eerie and sad-ish feel, so yeah, I might have to pick this one up soon. I'm actually really excited about this, so. Alright, I have finished all of the chapters. So the first chapter of The Need by Helen Phillips was okay. I was really intrigued by this story because the premise says that it's about an intruder in a home, and it's about this mother with her 2 kids. But the first chapter, honestly, it was only 6 pages long, but it was just kind of like slow for some reason. She keeps thinking she can hear a step in the other room, but she keeps like thinking like, no, it's just the kids and whatever, and she just keeps making all these excuses. And then at the very end, her daughter's like, who's that guy? And so like, I'm kind of intrigued, but also like, I think I might be going into this with a little bit too high of expectations. So I feel like this is like a 5 out of 10 on the scale of my intriguedness. I don't know, I feel like the writing in this book is gonna bother me for some reason. The next first chapter I read was I Know Everything by Matthew Farrell, and I didn't realize that this one is also kind of like a detective thriller. And so this one has a prologue and a first chapter as well. The prologue is this very confusing scene of this man like dying in a basement next to this mom and her child, and then the police come into the basement and find him. And then the first chapter is about this detective interviewing this man who murdered this girl because she was ignoring him and being bitchy to him, and he wanted to like show her who's boss. And it just felt very icky, and like I'm not very interested in it, to be honest, and don't really like thrillers that follow detectives like I keep saying. So this one's more like a 2 out of 10. Like I don't think I'm gonna end up picking this one up, which is a shame because I absolutely love this cover, and this book has one of those cool things where the cover actually goes on to this. And then the last first chapter that I read was from The Escape Room, and this one just follows this security guard who's working in this building, and it's like late at night and nobody's supposed to be there, and he hears these really loud cracks that sound like gunshots, I guess. And so he gets really freaked out and he calls the police, and then the police come and they're like, what's going on? And he's like, nobody's supposed to be here, but I heard these gunshots. And then they hear like the elevator ding, like somebody's like in the elevator, and the police like all like draw their weapons and they're all like scared. And then the elevator doors like open and the police just start shooting like crazy, and the guard can't really see what's going on until they stop, and then he looks and he says, I've never seen so much blood in my life. This first chapter was okay, like it was kind of like creepy, which is why I was interested in it, because it had that feeling of like there's someone in the building and you don't know who they are and it's kind of scary. So I did enjoy that, but I think overall I would give this like a 5 out of 10 on my hookedness so far, because like I'm not exactly eager to continue reading this. Like the writing style is just kind of like okay for me. I don't know, this one was just okay as well. So I feel like I ended it on a kind of sour note because I didn't really enjoy any of those last 3 books. I think the ones that I'm most intrigued by for sure are Lost You The Arrangement, and Someone We Know. Like, those would probably be the first ones that I would pick up out of all of these 10. I'm also very intrigued by The Perfect Wife though, and I feel like this one has a lot of potential. I also think The Swallows might have a lot of potential if it goes somewhere that I think it will, but I feel like the one that I'm most interested in reading, continuing reading after reading all of these first chapters, is The Arrangement, which is exciting because that's the one that I was the most excited about, and I'm still the most excited about, so that's good. Let me know what your thoughts are on any of these books, if you've read any of these thrillers. All of these are like fairly new thrillers, like I'm pretty sure all 10 of these were published within the last 2 months or so. But let me know what your thoughts are on these books if you've read them, or what you're thinking about these first chapters now that I just talked about them with you. Like, are there any that really intrigue you now that you would want to check out that you might have not wanted to before? Sorry I'm like filming in my room kind of late at night, but I just really wanted to do this video tonight, so let me know what you think of this lighting and angle for my future videos, and if you'd like to see any future videos with this background. And thank you guys so much for watching as always, and I will see you guys soon with a new video.